Hello. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you are a principal or an evaluator and your school is using the Milligan School Data teacher evaluation process. And so I wanted to make a video that just explained what that process looks like from your perspective. There are other things going on from the administration and from the teacher's perspective, but this should be what it looks like for you. So the first thing to know is that the teacher evaluation process revolves around the Danielson Group's framework for teaching. I'm not going to spend any time really going over what that is or how that works, but just know that you should be very familiar with that framework in order to work through this process here. So the first thing I'll show you is kind of the flow chart of what this looks like throughout the school year. I'm going to get a list of staff from the school. I'm going to create a number of folders to get this ready. And so the first thing to show you is what your folder will look like. I will send you a link to your folder, and this is going to be an important link. I would recommend you put this in your favorites. You just have this readily available because everything you need for the process will be in this folder. And make sure that you can get to it whenever you need that. One of the most important documents in this folder is going to be this important links, and so when you click on that, it opens up an important links, and this is specific to you as an evaluator. Some of these links go to surveys specific to you as an evaluator, so you would use this document. You wouldn't share this with someone else, but that is an important thing to keep in mind, that important links document. As we go through the flow chart here, once I create those folders, I'm going to have the teachers do a self-evaluation, and that self-evaluation is based on the Danielson framework, and I'll show you where that shows up in just a second. So when teachers do a self-evaluation and when anything is added to this process, I update what I'm calling a context document. And so the context document is really kind of the center of this whole process. Inside of your teacher folder, you will have a folder called context documents, and then you'll have a context document for each of the teachers that you're doing an evaluation on. And what that looks like is this right here. At the top, you have some information on the teacher, how many years of experience they have, what their highest level of education. That's good to know when you're doing an evaluation. And then this will be the results of that self-evaluation that they did. They will identify for you areas and components in the Danielson framework that they want you to be focusing on when you do the evaluation. And so you'll see a list of components here that they've checked for you to be watching, and then some narrative. They have a place to type some narrative on the individual domains. So for 2B and 2E, here's what they said about the 2B and 2E, and then learning environments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this context document is what you look at as you go through your process, and then this document grows throughout the process with more and more information. So as we go back here, once I've uploaded all of those context documents, you have an opportunity to do a walkthrough or more than one walkthrough. And so I actually have a separate little flow chart here for the walkthrough process. The first thing you're going to do before a walkthrough is obviously review that context document. That gives you the information that you need, the context to do a walkthrough. You'll observe the teacher and fill out the walkthrough survey, and I'll show you what that looks like right here. This is your walkthrough survey, and again, this is specific to your group of teachers, so you would be able to say, here's the date of the walkthrough, let's do that today, here's the time. This is an optional field if you want to say, and that, you know, I watched a 9 o'clock class, you certainly can. And then you have a list of your staff members here. So we're going to do you're saying that you did a walkthrough on Miss Honey. And then you have the Danielson framework right here, and you're able to go through and score them on this walkthrough for each of the components in each of the domains for the Danielson framework. So you can say that applying knowledge and content, we're going to say that was distinguished. You can say that in the domain 2, organizing spaces for learning, we're going to say that was basic right there. And after every one of these sections, you have a spot for some narrative text right here. So you can kind of explain why you put the scores that you did above. And then you're going to go down to the bottom and click submit. So you can fill out as many or as few as these as you want. It's worth noting that you don't actually even have to score them on anything. If you want to use this as documentation of just a hallway conversation that you had with them, you can do that. You can use this to just collect information throughout the year that you'll use on the formal evaluation. At the very bottom of this, there is one last question: is would you like the staff member to receive a summary of this walkthrough? And if you click yes, my system will send them an email, and that email will look something like this. It's just a really simple form email that just explains you did a walkthrough and scored them on the individual components with any of that narrative text right there. So, and then it will say if you have any questions to reach out to you directly. If you do not check this yes, or if you check no, then I'm assuming that that was a walkthrough that you wanted to talk with the teacher specifically afterwards about that. So I don't send the information, and then you are the one sending that information there. So if you choose to send it, then they'll get an email from me, and I will update all the context documents. If you do not choose to send it, then you will be sharing the results of that walkthrough with the teachers, and then I'll update the context documents. So going back to that context document right here, this is what that walkthrough documentation looks like. So this will get updated after you do a walkthrough with the information that you said. There was unsatisfactory on this, they were proficient on this. Here's the information we have, the narrative information that you filled out on those sections there. So that will get updated as you go through. I will say that there are a couple of kind of operational reports that you get throughout this process. So again, in your folder, there are a couple of reports here at the bottom. And what those are is just a summary of who has filled out the self-evaluation and who hasn't. So there's a teacher self-eval summary. So you can send reminders and do get all of your teachers to fill out that self-evaluation. And then there's also a report here that shows what walkthroughs you have done on various teachers and who still needs a walkthrough. So this is a good kind of to-do list that you can use to make sure that you're doing walkthroughs on the teacher throughout the year. Going back to our flow chart here, you have this opportunity to do walkthroughs on more than one teacher and more than once per teacher. And so once you've done that a few times, it will come time to do the evaluation. And so the most important step of that evaluation is going to be reviewing the context document, which will have all the information on the self-evaluation. It will have all of the information from your walkthroughs, and then you're able to do the self-evaluation. So going back to your folder, inside of your folder, you have a folder called Formal Evaluations, and in there, you're going to have a template, just a Google Sheets template for each one of your teachers. Some teachers get more than one evaluation, so you'll have two for that teacher, kind of distinguished between the two. But what those evaluation templates look like is just this Danielson framework, and it's really a more comprehensive look at the Danielson framework. And so you have an opportunity here to go through each of the domains and review them, give them a score on each of the domains. What this document does is it has the Danielson's rubric for what does unsatisfactory look like in applying knowledge and content of pedagogy. What does basic look like? What does proficient look like? What does distinguished look like? And then you have that information sort of in front of you to make that decision of what you're going to rate them on their formal evaluation. I will say, in the teacher framework for the Danielson model, they have a ton of information, and every one of these is a link to some more detailed information. So every component has a list of elements of success, and so you have just a ton of information for every one of these components to make that decision on how you are going to be rating them for each of these. And then you have an opportunity not just for the rating itself, but for the comments. So there's a section on every individual component to put a comment. This is why I'm rating you basic at this point, and you can do that for each of these. There is also a place for a professional growth plan. And I have discovered as I've been doing this process that professional growth plan has, that phrase has some baggage around it. And it's important to know that this is not a punitive thing. This is not a part of your corrective action process. That's going to be totally separate. I have nothing to do with that. But my hope is that every teacher has some opportunities for professional growth. That's going to be the idea, is that every teacher is working on at least something to grow. So even if they have, proficient and distinguished scores on every single domain and every single component, I hope there's still a professional growth plan there. And I will show you what happens with all this. Once you are done with this, you've filled in your name and you filled out the date of the review, you've done all of the scores and you've filled out the plan. Once you're done with that, all you have to do is take and drag and drop that document into the submit folder here. And then I am monitoring that submit folder, and what that will produce, if we go back to there, is you have a ready to be signed folder as well. So once you submit that completed evaluation to me, I will create this ready to be signed. And what that looks like right here is a formal looking evaluation. And so you have your information on the teacher name and the date, and here's a little graph that shows what the scores were, how many distinguished, proficient, basic, and unsatisfactory. All of the information that you put, everything you scored, all of your comments are right here. And then any of the plans, those professional development plans, are all listed here as well. And then this comes just as a PDF form with a teacher signature and date line and an evaluator signature and date line. You can print this out, have the teacher sign it, or if your school has like an e-signature program, you can upload this to your e-signature program. You can do whatever you want with this this document here, but that's what the process creates there. I will note that if you do this process year over year and you use this process for the following year, these plans right here will show up on the context document. So next year when you do this, the most recent plan that you have worked on or delineated on this process will be on the context document as well. And so the following year, when you open up your context document, you'll see the following year's self-evaluation. You'll see walkthroughs for the past 2 years. So you'll get to see the previous year's walkthroughs on here as well. And then the most recent plan from any formal evaluation that you've done. So that is pretty much the process right there. So if you have any questions about that at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly at milliganschooldata@gmail.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a great school year. Thank you.